Former Vice President Mike Pence says it is time to get rid of Social Security and Medicare, at least as we know it. Now, remember, just a few days ago, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, mentioned this during the State of the Union speech. He said, hey, I have a proposal. I'm not going to show anybody because I'm courteous. Republicans have been trying to get rid of Social Security for a very long time. They decided to heckle the President of the United States. Let me first go to Mike Pence. Here it is.
The size of our nation's economy is unsustainable. The last time this happened was after World War II. And the only way we got over it was through sound economic policies and a post-war booming economy. Now we literally have a paralysis in Washington, D.C. that says we're never even going to talk about reforming 70% of the federal budget. That's what entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, are all in that cash. And we simply are not going to restore the fiscal health of this nation by simply nibbling at the edges of the federal budget. I submit to you that we have to have a conversation about reforming entitlements in the days ahead.
Entitlements, you say. Former VP, you do realize the federal government makes no money. The federal government creates no revenue. They take the revenue that we create and then allocate or distribute the resources. No entitlement here. But once again, we go back to the dynamic of what? Contrast. Republicans do want to take your Social Security and Medicare, privatize it, so that their rich friends can get even richer, while at the same time not providing a service in which you deserve. Now, does it need to be fixed? Of course, every governmental program needs fixing, tweaking, updating, etc. That's normative in the process of government maintenance. That's how it works. But when this happened, it should have been different. Here it is.
Some of my Republican friends want to take the economy hostage. I get it, unless I agree to their economic plans. All of you at home should know what those plans are. Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal.
Well, I did contact Joe Biden's office. I have not received a copy of their proposal. I do believe he has one. Why would a Republican give the proposal to the Democratic president of the United States? Well, that's because whoever gave that proposal, they know President Biden is an institutionalist. If you just tell Joe, hey, let's keep this off record. I'm going to send you something that will destroy millions of American lives. Just don't say anything. Be courteous. Don't mention my name. All of those Republicans who stood up would have received a sharp rebuttal from me, our President of the United States. Don't want to be, not trying to give you any ideas. Bottom line is Joe Biden should have been prepared for that moment. Should have had a website set up. Website can be called lionassrepublicans.com. You can find all of the commentary about how Republicans have tried to get rid of this program that they are acting as if they have not. They were clutching their pearls as if something strange had been said during their State of the Union. Let's get into it. Former Vice President Mike Pence on Thursday called to end Social Security and Medicare and instead replace them with, as he called it, a better deal for younger Americans. Pence proposed keeping the current system in place for people who will retire in the next 20 years. It's about leadership, he says. We can replace the new deal with a better deal, and I'm going to be part of that conversation. Before ending the interview, Pence confirmed that he still is considering a 2024 presidential run. The former VP has been a longtime advocate of Social Security privatization, which was rejected during President George W. Bush's administration. All right, who's the king of debt, ladies and gentlemen? personal debt and American debt? Yeah, you know, Donald Trump. President Donald Trump certainly lived up to his self-proclaimed status as king of debt during his term in office. The national debt spiked by $7 trillion during Trump's tenure. Yeah, messaging. The substance of this is clear. Republicans are contrary to the general sentiment of most Americans. However, they remain an effective political class because of presentation and our lack thereof. Messaging is not complex, but it does require coordination, repetition, and staying on point. All right, my dear sister, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, with this debt ceiling fight looming, it puts us in a really interesting place because we're in a period of fiscal tightening. The IRS had a record collection year. We're watching the national deficit shrink, which isn't always a good thing because it can drive the private sector into deficit because you need money to make money. You need dollars out there in the economy to produce things of value and be productive and keep people employed. It puts us in a bad position when the national debt becomes too small. But we're in an interesting place with the Republican-controlled House because they're saying we're not going to raise the debt ceiling. It's putting the federal government in a position where then they have to decide what they're going to fund and not fund, or they decide to spend more than they're authorized to, both of which are entirely illegal. And it suggests we're heading towards a looming shutdown. And instead of saying, all right, let's look at what we've got going on here, let's do some budget reconciliation, they're saying, let's cut our most popular policies that people have paid into throughout their entire lives. It doesn't make any sense. The idea that they're entitlements and not something that people have worked towards is insane, because even if they weren't paying for their retirement in tax dollars, they're still producing things of value for American corporations throughout the entirety of their working lives. And so the idea that these corporations are then getting tax breaks and not paying into our public programs, it suggests that we're just robbing the working class, and people like Mike Pence and the Republicans are complicit.
Yeah, well said. You know, I have a recommendation. How about we start with our massive war programs, or perhaps corporations and their big tax breaks. Good place to start.